Hey everybody, I hope somebody is here because today is actually a holiday weekend in the United States, so a lot of people is traveling, they're not at home, so I'm not sure how many people will follow this webinar today, but that's okay. The webinar will stay online as a video, so everybody can watch it later. Hi Penka, how are you? I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that you can hear me well. So I would ask you guys first to let me know if you can hear me, and what is the quality of the sound compared to my previous webinars. If you remember, if there's nobody here who already watched a webinar before, I will switch the audio input source, and then we can compare and continue with the microphone that is better. So please let me know how you hear me. In the meantime, I'm just gonna remind you to, if you're watching this video, Tatiana says sound is good. Thank you so much. So I think we can continue with this microphone. To remind you, some people were asking me during the live broadcasting that they don't see a quality video. I'm pretty sure that you have a good internet connection, so don't forget to click that gear button down there in the right bottom corner of the video, and switch it to 1080p to see the highest quality video that I can broadcast. Also, if you are new, don't forget to subscribe, especially if you are planning on selling photos online, because my channel is all about that. It's about Photoshop tutorials and stock photography tutorials. I also wanted to tell you that the image that we did the last time in the last webinar, the image of the hummingbird isolated on a white background standing on some dry plant, is already sold, and surprisingly it's not sold on Shutterstock, it's sold on Adobe Stock. And I say surprisingly because Shutterstock is usually the first one to sell the picture when you upload it. I prepared a few pictures during this week, but I didn't upload them, and this is why. It's because this weekend, as I mentioned before, is a holiday weekend in United States. So remember that probably the most of your customers are coming from United States. So in the future, when you are editing images, if you want to upload them for sale, if the holiday is coming, just wait after the holiday, because usually if you upload an image just before the holiday, it's not gonna really take off well, especially in Shutterstock, and then if it's not sold in the first few days, it could become buried under pages and pages of other similar images. So it's always better to wait a couple of days, and then when the holiday is over, upload the image. Okay, now let's switch to Photoshop screen, and let's start working, and so we don't lose more time on talking. So I prepared a couple of images. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do because of the limited time, as I mentioned before. Of course, when I edit images for sale, I do it quick, but I don't have to explain every step, and that's why it takes so long to edit one image, basically 1 hour for one image. But I wanted to explain you every step, guys, so we have to do it that way. So I hope we're gonna make it today. Maybe I would like to merge this image with this image, and let me just make those thumbnails bigger. So we have this sunset here, and we have birds here. As you can see, this image is underexposed. This is kind of underexposed, but that's not important. We're gonna try to make these birds, to put these birds on this image, and make this image a little bit more interesting. I'm not saying that this image is gonna be a great seller, because there is a lot of sunsets over there, but some of my sunsets are selling really, really well. So let's try, why not? I'm gonna open this image first, the sunset image, and Photoshop will open it in Camera Raw because the image is Nikon RAW format. And let's try to fix some exposure here and contrast, and maybe add a little bit of vibrance to the image or something like that. The image by itself is pretty good. It's not bad at all. As you can see, it's not heavily underexposed. However, the sky is a little bit darker, and the sea, actually the ocean, is a little bit darker too. So let's try to fix that, and also check for the sharpness. So the first thing I want to do is, I don't know if I want to increase the exposure because the sun will become too bright, you see. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna put exposure back to 0, and then try to brighten some shadowy areas like this, so the ocean becomes lighter. Let's add some vibrance like this, so those muted colors become nicer. And I'm gonna go to this tab, which is Hue Saturation, Lightness and Grayscale, and I'm gonna click on Saturation tab and try to increase the saturation of blue color, because the ocean should be more blue. It doesn't really work that well because this is not a true blue color, but that's not really important because it's sunset, as we all see, and at the sunset the ocean is not that blue anyway. So okay, we tried. This is how it goes usually. You try things and then you see what works best. When I make my videos, they just post online, everything seems so smooth and just step after step, like I know exactly what I'm doing. But actually when you work live, you usually experiment. So let's try to increase the saturation of this orange, not too much though, like this maybe. And that's pretty good. So now I wanna fix this horizon. As you can see, it's not, first of all, it's not horizontal. This spot here is lower than this spot over here. So plus it's not really straight because of the lens distortion. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go to Lens Correction tab and click Enable Profile Corrections, and Photoshop knows right away, actually Camera Raw knows right away what lens I used for this photo, so it's gonna correct the distortion automatically. You can look at the image when I click this. You see? So the distortion was not bad, but it was still there. And also I'll just, in case that there is any chromatic aberration, but I don't see it. Anyway, I'm gonna click this to fix it, and that's about it. Now horizon is still not horizontal, but I'm gonna fix that in Photoshop. Or maybe I can do it here just to show you how it's done. So there is this tool here, Straighten tool, right? I'm gonna click on it, click on this spot here and draw a line to the right, leave it like that, and Camera Raw gives you the preview. You see, these are the original angles of the image, these grayed out ones, and these with dots, with little rectangles, those are gonna be new angles of the image when I double click on it. So now we have a completely horizontal horizon, and the lens distortion is fixed as well. Now let's check for the sharpness. I'm gonna click on Detail tab and use Ctrl+ on my keyboard to zoom a bit more. To me it looks like the image is not really sharp. It's not that bad either. We're gonna decrease the size of it anyway, so I'm just gonna increase the sharpness more. I probably had a better image than this one of the same sunset, but we're not gonna lose time in this webinar to search for another image. I think this is pretty good actually. It's completely fine. Now when we increase the sharpness, you can probably notice, I hope you can, depending on the quality of the video that YouTube renders from this what I'm doing, you can probably see some noise over here. I can zoom more so you can see it better. You see that grain? So this is zoomed too much, it's 200%. Reviewers at stock websites will not review your image using this kind of zoom. They will review it one step lower, which is 100%. We still see some noise, right? So we have to fix that too. I'm just gonna push this slider in the noise reduction section, the luminance slider to the right, and I think this is fine now. When you are doing noise reduction, you have also to be careful about color banding. You don't want to produce color banding. I'm not sure if I can show you how that looks like on this image. Let me try. If I push this slider too much to the right, let's just wait for Camera Raw to process it. Now we have something that reviewers call over filtered image, because if you look at the ocean, there are no any details. Waves are completely smudged. But on the sky, sometimes when you do this, if you have very close, how do you say that, variations of colors, nuances, then those might not look natural. Those might look like if one is transitioning into another, transiting, sorry, into another in a very unnatural way. So there's no smooth gradient. There's just one step down or up. So I'm gonna bring this slider back and bring zoom back to 100%, and I'm just gonna leave it like this. Okay, let's zoom out and see the image. And now I'm gonna open this image in Photoshop. Hi everybody, hi Krishnadev, hi Tatiana, hi Penka. I see more people there. So now we have our background image. I'm not sure if I want this little boat here, so I'm gonna create a new layer of this one. I'm gonna grab the background layer, pull it down to a new layer icon. This is something we always do, so you keep your background, your original image safe. In this new layer, I'm gonna zoom using Ctrl+, and also I want to tell you that I'm moving image. I create this little hand by pressing on the spacebar. So you just press spacebar, whatever tool you're using at the moment, and then you can click on the image with your mouse and drag it left and right, up and down. That's the quickest method. So I'm not sure if I want this boat here, because if you take a look at the image, at the whole image, if it was bigger, it would be nice, but like this is just basically just like a dot. So I'm gonna delete that. I'm gonna erase it. Let's try to use clone stamp tool. So I'm gonna grab, pressing Alt button on my keyboard, and then I'm gonna click here with my mouse to take a sample, and then as you can see I can carry that sample everywhere. So I'm gonna put it here and just go over the boat. You see a little cross on the left side. This is where the tool is taking the sample from, and the circle with the little cross is the place where the tool is painting, and that's how we got rid of the boat. So we have our background for those birds. In the meantime, let me just take a look at the chat, because I think there is one question. Fernando says, is there a difference in using this tool from PS or Lightroom? If you mean clone stamp tool, I don't think there is clone stamp tool in Lightroom, but everything I did so far is the same in Lightroom and Photoshop or Camera Raw. So everything I've done so far except deleting the boat is exactly the same in Lightroom and Camera Raw or Photoshop. So now I have to open this other image of birds. Those are pelicans actually. So let's open that one. Wait for Photoshop to load it. And you can see that this image is pretty much underexposed, and because I zoomed so much with my lens, you can see some dark corners, which is basically vignette, lens vignette. So I'm gonna click right away on the lens correction tab and click enable profile corrections, so we correct all that in one click. Did you see how corners became lighter? Let me just uncheck that so you can see that again. See that? And then I'm gonna click remove chromatic aberration just in case there is any chromatic aberration in the picture. Then I'm gonna go back to the basic tab, and because I want to cut out these birds from the sky, I don't want to use the sky, I'm gonna put those birds on our first image with sunset. I will make the sky bright as much as I can so we can cut that out easily. So I'm gonna increase the exposure a little bit, not too much, because I don't want to lose these details on this wing, for example, because that wing is pretty light too. And then I want to brighten up the tones that are already light, so I'm gonna get the white slider and push it to the right, still paying attention at the wing. We still have this detail here, okay? And then highlights as well, I'm gonna push that up too, okay? So this is pretty good. We still have some bluish hue over here, so I'm gonna go to Hue, Saturation and Lightness and Grayscale tab and click on Luminance and increase the luminance for blue color. So I'm gonna grab blue slider and push it to the right, and do you see how we lost that blue over here? See, if I push it to the left, you see the sky better. If I push it to the right, then we basically deleted the sky, brightened it up very much. Now I want to check for sharpness, so zooming to 100%. Okay, it's pretty good. Let me just add a little bit more, like this. And this is gonna be completely fine. We're gonna decrease the size of the image. You can see some kind of a halo over here around the wing. You see those little gray dots that forming a line? That's because we brighten up blue too much, and this here next to the blue is probably not really blue, so let's try to fix that too. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. So let me just check the chat for a second. Jackie Tudor says, "Where did you learn Photoshop? You are awesome." Thank you for the compliment. First of all, I learned it by myself using tutorials on the internet, but I started 9 years ago. So, and I still don't know everything about Photoshop. They are improving the software all the time, so it's very hard to know everything, and I don't know if anybody can say they know all the tricks, because you can do one thing in many ways, and just because of all those possibilities, you can't really say that you really know Photoshop completely. It's always learning process. And then Tatiana says he means noise reduction. Who means noise reduction? Let me see. Oh, noise reduction. Yes, Fernando, you can do noise reduction in Lightroom. Of course, that's something that you can do exactly in the same way in Lightroom and Photoshop or Camera Raw. So I click open image, and we have our image now. I want to crop this out because I don't need the sky, as I mentioned before. So I'm gonna just use the crop tool and do something like this, and click here. So we have our image now. Now I want to copy this background layer to a new layer, just in case, so we don't mess it up. And then I want to select only the birds. But first, what I want to do, I want to copy this whole layer to our previous image, this image of a sunset, right? So let me do that. I'm gonna click on select tool, and now I can click Control A, which means select all, and select the whole image. You see those marching ants around? Or I can just drag with the tool and do the same thing. And then I'm gonna click Control C or Command C on Mac to copy it. Click on open our first image, and while the top layer is active, I'm just gonna do Control V, and you can see that Photoshop created a new layer with just birds. Now we can click on the Move tool. This is the Move tool, and drag these birds around. But now we have to delete this white and leave just birds. So we have somehow to select only white, and there are a few ways to do it, like anything in Photoshop, right? I just mentioned that. So I can probably use quick selection tool and go around the bird, and Photoshop will try to select only the sky, but that's gonna be painfully slow, and then we have to fix all these corners here. So that's not the way to do this, right? So Control D to deselect. The best way to select an object or the background from the picture that has a uniform color background is to use Select Color Range. So you click on Select and then go to Color Range. This new box will open, and here you will have a thumbnail and an eyedropper, right? So if I click here on this white, look what's going on with the thumbnail. You see how it became whiter? That means that we selected all the colors that are similar to the spot where I clicked, right? So we basically select most of the sky, but there are still some gray areas here. So to add that to the selection, we can't use this same eyedropper anymore. We have to click on this one, which has a little plus sign. So plus, and then you can click either here on white, or you can click on the thumbnail where you see these gray areas like this. And that's how we add more colors to this selection. Now when you're pretty happy with the selection, right, then you can also add some more pixels, some more similar hues by dragging this slider to the right. But if we do it too much, then we will select the sun and everything that is. So this slider basically tells you how far you want to go with your selection, how precise you want to be. If you leave it at 0, you will see that even here some of the tones will not be selected. Oops, sorry, I have to click that one back. So this slider is the key. Just if I click on the sun, I'm gonna erase everything. So let me just do that again, just adding this and this a little bit, and this is about it. We also selected the sun, but we're gonna deselect that. That's not important. So if I click OK now, you can see that Photoshop selected their marching ants around this section here. The birds are not selected, even though it looks like they are. They are actually the only thing that is not selected, because the selection is between this line and bird's wings and bird's body. Actually, you know what we want to do, we want to invert the selection and select only birds. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So to select only birds and not the actual white background, you go to Select again and click Inverse. Okay. And now, even though it doesn't look like anything is changed, you actually selected birds. Now with this selection, I want to click Select and Mask. And over here you have different options to see how you did selection. So for example, if I put the unselected area to be red, then I can see better what I did with the picture. You can see kind of white glow around the wings, but that's not important because we're gonna fix that later. So I'm pretty actually happy with the selection. Let me just try to zoom more to see how it looks like. It's pretty good. We still have this little grainy line around the birds, but we're gonna fix that in a different way. here as well. You see those little dots? Well, that's completely fine. I'm just gonna click feather here and increase the feather of the selection to 1 pixel, and that's because you usually don't want selections to be super sharp. You see how that looks much better now? Because the image itself has certain sharpness and you can't go naturally over that. So you have to match the sharpness of what you're doing artificially to the original sharpness of the image. So I'm just gonna leave it like this, and then here it says output 2. Instead of selection, I want to make a new layer with a layer mask. So I'm gonna click that and click OK. And Photoshop will add a new layer with a layer mask. This previous layer is not visible anymore. And now what we have is something like this. It still doesn't look good, right? But we will fix that as I mentioned before. Let me just take a look at the chat again for questions. Thanks for your answer. I want to start making images for stock. I have another question. When I make an image, can I upload to 2, 3, or 4 stock images sites the same picture? Yes, you can, and I highly advise that because different customers are buying images for different websites. So if you just upload everything to one website, you are basically missing on the opportunity to sell the same picture to other customers. Just be careful not to sign the exclusive contract with one website, because if you do that, if you sign an exclusive contract with one website, you will not be able to sell images to other websites, and that's kind of limiting. Websites are trying to lure you to sign an exclusive contract with them by saying that they're going to give you a little bit more money for every image you sell. However, when you think about it, you're actually losing the money on other websites. And what if that website eventually some other company buys that website, and then the sales just disappear? Customers just move to another place because they don't like it anymore. That was happening in the past. So I never ever signed an exclusive contract with any website. And then hi Don. Oh, hi Fadzai. So my friend Fadzai, he has a channel on YouTube, channel 8, and his channel is pretty small, just like mine, so he has enough time to answer to your question, guys. I highly recommend his channel. I'm gonna put a link to it when this streaming is over. If you want to find out anything, if you want to learn anything about cameras, about video, about photography, about all the technical stuff, he can explain that to you. He's great in that. So let's now move to another step. We see that our mask over here, so to remind you, we have the layer with these birds, and we have the mask. This is the mask for the same layer. Wherever the mask is painted black, the layer is hidden. Wherever the mask is painted white, we can see the actual layer. And now I want to get rid of this white line, but now I don't want to confuse you. I can do that by just erasing that white line. But the thing is, even if I leave the image like this, even if I delete this white line around, and even if I go slowly and delete these kind of white halo around the wings, the image will still not look natural. And why is that? It's because the color, basically the colors on these birds are not matching the colors of the background image, and it looks unnatural. Even though we place the birds in a way that it looks like, okay, the sun is hitting the right spots on the birds, it still doesn't look natural. So we have somehow to blend these two images. And when you just think about it, to blend two images, then you have to remember that Photoshop has blending modes. So there are different ways to merge two images, to make one image out of 2 or 3 images, and Photoshop has great tools that are called blending modes, and they are all set here. So if you want to blend, let's say, this layer with the layer below, we are skipping this layer because it's not visible, it doesn't have this little eye. You have to put this top layer in a certain blending mode, And if you don't know which blending mode is the best, then just go through all of them, click here, go through all of them, and see what works the best. Because I know how they work, I kind of know that this will be my choice. One of these blending modes will be my choice, and probably it's gonna be multiply. So when I click on that, let's see what's going on with our birds. You see that? To understand how blending modes work, I created a series of videos, and I'm gonna link them to this video later. So I'm not gonna go into detail about explaining how these blending modes work. You can learn that from those videos. But for now, I just want to zoom more and to see how this looks like. They are kind of too red, right? So what I want to do is decrease the saturation for this layer, so these birds are kind of matching the background, the sky. The sky is not that red, right? It's kind of orange, but not this red. So to do that, I'm gonna click down here, this icon that says, those are actually adjustment layers, and I'm gonna click on Hue Saturation. Photoshop added Hue Saturation layer on top, but if I start messing with any of these sliders, you can see that I'm changing the whole image. That's because if you have a layer like this, adjustment layer on top, it's affecting all the layers, all the visible layers below. If you want to affect just the top layer, so let's put that back to 0. If you want to affect just top layer, then you have to click this icon here. See? If I click that, then this little arrow appears here, which means that now our adjustment layer, Hue Saturation, is affecting only this top layer, and our sunset will stay intact. So I said that I want to decrease the saturation for the birds, right? So I'm gonna click here and just drag this to the left, something like this. If I do it completely, well, actually that looks good too. So I'm gonna leave it like this. Click these two little arrows so you don't, it's not messing us our view. So this looks pretty natural to me, right? Now we can play with these birds. We can leave them like this. We can align them differently. And to align them differently, we have to cut them out separately, right? So let me show you how to do that. If I'm happy with how they look like on the image, then this top layer is still active, I remind you. So I'm gonna click on that layer and hold my shift key, click on the layer with birds and the mask, and then I want to merge these two layers and completely delete the mask. So I'm gonna right click on those two selected layers and click merge layers. Oops, sorry. Control Z. It doesn't work that way, right? Yes, it happens. First, what I want to do is delete the mask. So I'm just gonna click on the mask and drag it down to the trash can. Photoshop will ask me to apply the mask before removing. I want the mask to be applied. That was the goal, right? So I'm gonna click apply, and now we don't even have to merge the layers. We have our layer with birds and just birds, so there is no background. So now I can use my select tool, rectangle marquee tool, and draw a selection around this bird. Click on the move tool and put it, let's say, here. Then I'm gonna go back to my selection tool, select this bird, and move it, let's say, here. And this is how we can move all these birds wherever we want them to be. I'm gonna put them like this. It's gonna look kind of cheesy, but okay, doesn't matter. Still looks kind of cool, right? And now select and deselect, or just Control D. And this is our new image. Birds look pretty natural here. right? So now our image is basically done. I can just go click File, Save As, and let's name the image Sunset. Sunset. The image will be saved in PSD format, so we keep all our the whole editing process. Click OK. And now I don't know, let me see, what time is it? It's 12:36. We probably have time to, I want to show you something. So there are free plugins made by Nick Software. Back a couple of years ago they were pretty expensive, but I think Google bought that company and they made those plugins free to download and use. And those are plugins that I use all the time. They have a lot of filters, and I highly recommend you to download them because they're going to help you a lot. I'm going to leave the link in the description of this video later when the video is done. So let me show you how some of those filters work. So first of all, to apply filters on this image, I have to make one layer out of all these layers, because Photoshop will not know, the plugin can't know if I want to apply the filter only on this layer or the whole image that I see, the sunset and everything. So I'm just gonna go to first of all click on the top layer here, and then go to Layer in the Layer menu and say Merge Visible, right? So we have everything merged. There are a few ways to do this anyway, it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna show you the simplest way. So now we have our background, that is our final image. I'm gonna click Ctrl A to select the whole image, Ctrl C to copy it, and then I can click Ctrl Alt Z a couple of times to go a couple of steps back, click on the top layer, and then click Ctrl V. So this was actually not the simplest way, but anyway, it works. Whatever you have to use to merge the layers down, you can use that. And now we have our final image on the top layer, the image with birds and sunset together. We can turn all this off and we will still see the whole image, right? So let me now show you how these filters or plugins work. So I'm going to click on Filter. When you install it, they will be somewhere here in the lower part of the menu. Nick Collection, and for this one I want to use Color FX Pro. So as I mentioned, these filters are free to download and use. I don't think they're gonna be updating them anymore, but they work great, so I highly recommend downloading them and using them. So wait, I hope my Photoshop is not slowing down. It looks like it does. Okay, it works. So the plugin is preparing the image for processing. It's taking a little bit more because I'm streaming, I'm checking the YouTube analytics, I'm doing Photoshop, and that's why it's taking so long to open the image in this plugin. You have this line here that shows you before and after. So this is our original image, and this one is after, and it looks like this because the last selected filter that I used, it actually has the last selected filter that I used, and that's one of the bicolor filters. So over here you have a lot of filters that you can use, and they have different purpose, of course, but these bicolor filters are something that I use the most, I would say. So let's see the whole image. When you click on any filter, on the right side you have like a panel for that filter, right? If you click here, you have more filters in that one filter that you selected here. So bicolor filters includes all these bicolor filters, and you can choose what looks the best on your image. So let's just play a little with it. What do you think? What will you choose? You see the numbers here? Maybe you can give me some suggestion. I kinda like this one, the number 1. So let's click on that one. When you select one bicolor filter or any other filter here for different purpose, then you have the opacity over here, where you can increase the strength of the filter, like this, or completely delete it, erase it. So I'm gonna click something, I'm gonna use something like this, and then blend. Here you will have very sharp transition from one color to another. If you do this, then the transition will be smooth. I want to use something like this, so we have some yellow in the middle. And then vertical shift also decides where the transition is going to be. So if you push it to the right, then you have more red up here. If you push it to the left, you're going to have more yellow. I want to keep it like this. And rotation, we don't really want to, we usually don't touch that because it rotates the filter. Sometimes you can use that. That could be fun. But for sunset, for a natural looking sunset image, well, natural looking, not really, because the colors are oversaturated, but this is stock photography, so just click on that. 180 is horizontal. Then what's also cool about this plugin, you can also use these control points, where you can click on a control point and then let's say click here, and then you can, you see, you can adjust the filter in that local spot. Actually, this decides how far the filter effect will go. If you do something like this, then you're affecting only small area here. See that? If you do this, then you're affecting all the colors, all the similar colors selected with this point, right? So I'm going to click here to delete this point because I don't need it. Oops, sorry. Yeah, that's true. That's what I wanted to do. I actually want to delete it completely. So this is our image now. Let's check now. Let's just go with cursor around and see how it looks like in this little window here, because we don't want the image to look super weird or grainy or have color blending or color banding or something like that. But this looks pretty good. Maybe it's too saturated. I'm just gonna decrease that a little bit. Saturation. Yeah, I like this. Okay. Just gonna click OK. Now Photoshop needs to process that. It's gonna add a new layer here. Saving image. Okay. Now let's zoom out. As I mentioned before, you always need to zoom out to see the thumbnail, because that's something that customers will see first, and if that attracts them, they will probably click on it. So this looks pretty interesting, I think. I like it. So let's save the image, the whole file again. File, just save, because we already have saved version, right? Okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna click on this one and just close it. I'm not gonna save that because I want to save my original image. And now let's add some keywords. File, file info, and we're gonna add the title, which would be let's say pelicans, because those are pelicans in the sunset. My name is automatically placed here in the author's place, author's whatever that is box. Description would be how many birds we had there. Okay, let me see. 1 2 3 4 pelicans. So going back to file info, 4 pelicans flying over the ocean in sunset. Let's see how many words we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'm counting this because on many websites description has to have at least 7 words. We have 8, so that's completely fine. I'm gonna leave keywords empty because I'm doing that in Xpix, another free application, and I'm gonna say that this image is copyrighted because it is. Any picture that you take is automatically copyrighted, and it's your property, so don't forget that. And my copyright notice is Dreamframer. Yours can be anything you want to use, your alias or your full name or just nickname or whatever you use all the time. I'm just gonna click OK and then save the file again. And now, because we had some noise, I'm gonna decrease the size of this image to close to 6.3 megapixels because that's the minimum for most of the websites that sell photography. I'm gonna use the calculator. Did I click on it? Yes. So let's go to image size. Let's go back to our calculator and multiply these two numbers. Remember to have pixels here. Don't multiply if it says inches or centimeters, millimeters. So use pixels, okay? So let's multiply that. 5463 multiplied by 3642. Okay, that's almost 20 megapixels. So I'm gonna do something like this. Let's see now. 3300 multiplied by 2200. Still kind of big. Sorry. Something like this maybe. Multiplied by 3150. This is pretty good, but actually I'm gonna leave it like that. It's okay, the image is good anyway. Here you have a preview of how it's gonna, of the quality of the image. So this is perfect. There is no noise. So okay, clicking OK. Image is resized. Now let's zoom it out to zoom it in to 100%. Just one more time. See, there's no noise, there's no nothing. Pelicans looks nice. The ocean is not super sharp, but that's not even the goal. The pelicans are the main subject of the image. So, and the sun is sharp enough too. So now I don't want to save PSD file because we decreased the size of it. I'm gonna click on File and save JPEG version that's ready for upload, right? So I'm just gonna choose JPEG instead of PSD. The name will stay the same and click Save. And of course, use the highest quality. Okay. The image is saved now. I forgot to mention that you can also tip me if you want to. There is a little dollar icon down there in the chat. That's called Super Chat. I never used it. Actually, I used it before, but no one was tipping me. So if you want to do that, you can do that here by clicking on that little dollar sign in the chat. And our image is ready to be keyworded. So we're gonna do that in Xpix. In the meantime, let me just take a look at the questions. Because Black Arrow has some questions. Hi, I have 3 questions. First, can I use same model release document for all stock sites, or I must download model release from each site individually and have fill 10 signature from one person? No, you can use just one model release. Every website provides their own version of model releases, but and property release, but you can use just the general one, and I linked model and property release in many of my videos, my previous videos. So I'm sure if you click on any of the stock photography episodes 1 to probably 15, you're gonna have at least few videos that have links for model and property release in the description of the video. I'll probably do this in this video too, because you know I have to go through this video after and watch it for 1 hour and say and see what I and where I mentioned that I'm going to link something and do that after. Second question is, if I do Photoshop manipulation in Photoshop, making cool stuff from multiple images. Do I must upload all files I use in that manipulation in release section? It's maybe 5 files for one finally image. I rarely do that, but I know that when I make my illustrations out of photographs, I have to upload one release with thumbnails of those photographs that I used. So I think most of the websites who ask for property release for such images, they will ask you to put thumbnails of your photographs, and of course you sign the release, so that's pretty easy to do. And then the question is because Shutterstock would be made me ask. Yeah, Shutterstock asks you for those. I think on Shutterstock they are called reference images or something, or big stock, but it's the same company now. So they probably both ask for a so-called reference image, which means the image that you used to make your final image. The third question is, can I use free images from pixels.com or pixabay.com for manipulation and combining them with my image and then upload finally image for sale? I don't think you can do that. The only images that they were allowing us to use to create new images were public domain images, for example NASA images. I'm not sure they are accepting those anymore. I never used images from other people to create my images, my final images, but I know that people were using images from Hubble telescope, NASA images in general, to create their own images. For example, the photographs of planet Earth or Moon, or other planets too. So you probably have to check that out with every website. They might have different rules about that. Matthew says, is there a difference if I save as JPEG or if I export it to JPEG from the menu? I think there is a difference because maybe not all the time, but export has something that is called export for web, and that option allows you to save a really small file with the same size of the image. So number of pixels is the same, but the compression is high. This dialog export as JPEG is good when you are exporting images for websites because the files are small, but it could affect the quality of the image. So I don't advise using that. I think it's the best to use just save the biggest file, because most of us now have internet speeds that are good enough to upload those files, and you probably are not gonna upload hundreds of files at the same time, right? Penka says, how do you organize your pictures? I organize them in folders, and I have a backup hard disk, so I have folders for raw images or unprocessed images, and they are lined up by the date or by the event, and then I select images from those images, and then I process them. I put them in a separate folder which is stock images, and then organize them again like dates or events. I also like to use Lightroom and their catalogs, and I think if you have Lightroom, that's the best option because the previews are nice. You can do some tagging in Lightroom and all of that, but if you don't have that, just use regular folders on your hard disk, and then eventually, because hard disk gets full very quickly, you need another hard disk to back up, or maybe some cloud service to do it. Okay, now let me see, what time is it? It's already 12:55, so let's do this quickly. I'm gonna turn on Xpix. Let me switch the view and turn off Photoshop. As I mentioned, I don't want to save PSD version of this smaller image. The computer is kind of slow, so let's hope it works. Let's switch off the calculator. Black Arrow says, thanks for sharing your knowledge, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, Fernando, thank you so much for $2. Those are my first $2. Thank you so much, guys. So I'll click add files, and let's find our image. It's somewhere here. Webinars, June. This is our sunset image. I'm going to click Start Import, so we import metadata that is already saved, which is our description and title. Also, don't worry about the copyright and all that. That's also saved with the image. It's just not displayed here in Xpix. Thank you, Dylan. And now I want to add keywords for this, so I'm going to click on Suggest and type here sunset. I'm not going to type pelicans. Okay, let's try. Maybe just birds will be fine, but let's try with pelicans. Maybe somebody already has. Okay, yeah, they do. So there are some similar images, of course, especially with sunsets. So let's click this one to add keywords. Let's click this one and this one. And maybe this one too. I think that's plenty. So 19 keywords are overlapping in these images here. And we have 37 additional keywords. So let's check them out. Pelicans, fine. Ocean, fine. Birds, flying, orange, peaceful, vacation, tropical, nature. All those words are fine. Florida, yeah, it could be, although this was Mexico. Coast, flock, sunset, golf, sand. We don't see that on our picture. Shoreline, not really. Pink, no. Seascape, beach. Should I leave beach or no? That's the question, because we don't really see the beach. This could be from the boat. So, but you know what? Maybe yes, because some customers will type beach, and so let's leave that. Yellow, that's fine. Seashore, oh yeah, I have to add yellow actually. So when I click on this little plus, yellow will go into the upper box. Seashore, okay, let's leave that. Coastline, okay, let's leave that too. Waves, yes. Gulf of Mexico, not really, but we can add that. Tourism, Charleston, relaxation, yeah, can be. Seaside, travel, pelican silhouette, yeah, they're not really, my pelicans are not really silhouettes, right? We can see some details, but yeah, let's click that. They're almost there. Sunset sky, silhouette, water, ocean sunset, sunsets. Shutterstock will probably delete one of these. If there is sunset and sunsets, yeah, there is sunset and sunsets. Shutterstock and some other websites just delete one of those. It's not important because they count this as both. Wildlife, yes. Sunset background, yes. Summer, sunset clouds. Pelicanus, that's probably Latin name for pelican. Darkness, tourist, not really. Sand, no. Shoreline, okay, I add that. Leisure, brown pelicans, yeah, they were brown. Birds flying, formation, horizon, pelican, Mexico, yeah, that's right. 44 words, that's pretty good. So I'm going to click add suggested keywords and click close. Do we want to add some more words? Let's add red. And let's add beautiful. Beautiful is too broad. What could we add more? Or maybe just let's add the actual place where this was taken. It's Puerto Vallarta. And do we have sun? You see, there was no sun as keyword. That's amazing, and it's a sunset. Okay, we have everything now, so I'm gonna click here to select the image and just click save. Start export. The image is saved, the keywords are saved now. Now we can upload it. While the image is selected, click on upload button. All my websites are already saved here. For all those websites, you have to fill out this little form, and if you want to use Xpix or any other FTP uploader, FTP client, then you will have to find this information on the website where you submit images. So all those websites will provide you with your host name, username and password for FTP upload, right? So I checked all these websites, and I'm just gonna click start upload. There is one warning. It's probably something about the same word is found in keywords and title like pelicans, probably, or something like that, but that's okay. So I'm gonna switch back to camera view. So guys, I hope you like this. Let's hope this image sells. It's a pretty nice sunset, although as I mentioned, there's like probably hundreds of thousands of sunsets on Shutterstock only. Well, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but a lot. And hopefully see you next week at the same time. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment under this video, send me an email. Some people are already contacting me and saying that they have images accepted or sold, and I'm happy to hear that. So if you have any problems, if you need help, just ping me, let me know. And I was happy to be with you today, and see you next time. Bye.